Hello. That deer just booked it. I mean, you can't run over a deer so in this game. Happy Spooky Day. No! Oh, I saw that sign. Stupid sign. There's just like one sign right here. Another wooden sign right there. Oh, crap. I'm going to the shop to repair my thing. My, Thank you. Thank you. I like the missile one. You know something weird about this combine? Unlike my other combine, it doesn't have a steering wheel in it. I paid $1,500 in this game extra for the non-steering wheel option. Boom. Oh yeah, I need off Wi-Fi as well. Yeah, I also have really bad Wi-Fi. Yeah, we're doing pretty good. I want to find something to watch. Yes. Ready? Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. Love that sound. That sound though. One of the best sounds, or worst sounds you could hear. I love M1 pain. I want some Battlefield one. I don't even know it. Oh, dude, ahoy! This video's about to bear it.
20 cal to wound a man, 30 cal to kill him. A good rule of thumb for rifles, and one that's held true for a century. But every rule has exceptions, and sometimes you need an exceptional rifle.
The Barrett 50 cal
are an American firearms manufacturer, best known for their 50 caliber rifles. So what's the need for such a powerful round?
What's the
Where
new
did
knot?
the idea for a shoulder-fired 50 caliber rifle
Oh,
come
I
from?
need it. Be right back. I gotta go get something. Okay, I have a little miniature collection of bullets. They're all disarmed bullets, so don't worry. Alright. See this? Ready? I have a feeling that people don't really know how big 50 caliber rounds are. Oh, there you are. See this? It's a 7.62 bullet. This is what AKs shoot. Yeah, so AK-47 shoot this bullet. It's considered to be a really big round, yeah. Okay. Now, ready? This is a 7.62. This is a 50 caliber bullet. Yes. Just look at the damn thing. Yeah, this is a 50 cal. And to give you a little bit of representation, the base of a 50 cal is the size of a nickel. Or a little bit smaller than the size of a nickel. That actually sucks. See, like, look at this thing. Like, if I take a quarter, right? Here's a quarter size to the 50 cal. It's a big round. Yeah, you will die. Like you could maybe survive a 7.62. You probably will not survive a 50 caliber round. I've heard that when you shoot a deer with it, they just explode into pieces. It's a violent round. It's one of the biggest bullets you can fire out of an actual rifle.
And how on earth do you manage the recoil? World War I was a wake-up call for militaries of the early 20th century. New technology brought radical changes to the battlefield. Aircraft, radio, artillery, and tanks. Early tanks were heavy and slow, but their armor was not insurmountable. Half an inch of hardened steel at most.
That's
By
weak armor.
1917, the Germans added a steel core to rifle rounds, called the K-bullet, to better pierce this armor. In response, tank armor became thicker, rendering conventional rifle calibers ineffective. So, the Germans devised a larger caliber, 13.2 by 92mm tank and Flieger round. It was intended for a machine gun, but the bolt-action Mauser 1918 T-Gewehr was made to serve as a proof of concept. This was the first anti-tank rifle, much larger and heavier than conventional rifles, and with punishing recoil, but it was able to reliably penetrate 26mm of steel armor, and was a major threat to tanks.
Whew.
The Americans had taken notice. Their 30 cal machine guns were proving less effective against armored planes, so they tasked John Browning to develop a new round.
Browning.
Inspiration was taken
Actually,
from French and
50 BMG stands for 50 machine gun is named after Browning. That's the guy who made the 50 cal round.
9mm round, which had proven effective against observation balloons, and captured examples of the German 13.2mm rounds. The 50 Browning machine gun cartridge was the result, with a half-inch, 40+ gram bullet at muzzle velocities exceeding 2,700 feet per second. Prototypes were finished and ready for testing in November 1918, just as World War I came to an end. The first weapon to fire this new round was the M1921, a water-cooled machine gun with improvements to the recoil buffers. Its immense weight, 55 kilograms of water, made it difficult to wield, and issues with early cartridges meant the rate of fire and muzzle velocity were suboptimal. So, while the M1921 was adopted in limited numbers by 1929, development continued on the 50 cal platform. The result was the M2, air-cooled with a variety of barrel options.
That one, that's like one of the most famous 50 cal machine guns.
During World War II, the M2 saw extensive use, workhorse, earning the affectionate nickname of Marjus. By this time, tank armor had advanced to the point where even anti-tank rifles were ineffective.
Yeah, it went from like 8mm to 76 millimeters.
Kinetic energy simply wasn't possible. Instead, high explosive anti-tank weapons, rocket launchers such as the Panzerfaust and Bazooka, became the infantryman's counter to armored vehicles instead. The era of the anti-tank rifle had come to an end. The M2 Browning had established...
Yeah, there's no way you're going to take on armor from
that of the
tanks
heavy
nowadays.
machine gun. In fact, it remains in service to this day.
You probably take
Its
a picture of it on
powerful round,
YouTube.
Stable platform and heavy barrel
Oh wait,
also
no,
conferred
no.
favourable characteristics for long-ranged, accurate fire. The weapon was equipped with a telescopic sight as early as the Korean War, but the most famous demonstration of the M2's long-range
Anything for the
ability
Vex,
came
just
in
gotta find out how to.
1967 in Vietnam. A US Marine Corps sniper, Carlos Hathcock, achieved the longest confirmed sniper kill with a scoped M2. 2,250 meters.
Damn.
A record that stood for 35 years.
2 kilometers?
In 1982, Ronnie G. Barrett was a professional photographer in Tennessee. He was taking some shots of a river patrol boat with mounted M2s when inspiration struck. He pondered the commercial viability of a shoulder-fired, semi-automatic 50 caliber and sketched his plans for a new rifle. Most people he approached about his idea were skeptical. Why would anyone need a 50 caliber rifle?
Why would anybody not need a
Perhaps
50
the
cal
naysayers
rifle?
were right, but he eventually found manufacturing partners and some former...
Like for human height, I kind of use feet, but for length, I use meters. Yeah, I know. It's weird.
Later, he had his first prototype, the Barrett M82, named for its year of design. To mitigate the heavy recoil from the 50 BMG round, the barrel is crowned with a colossal muzzle brake, which redirects propellant gases backwards, significantly reducing the felt force. The recoil that remains is distributed through buffers, springs, and the weight of the weapon itself. resulting in a surprisingly manageable weapon. A second prototype was shown at a gun show in Houston, where Barrett was able to secure starting capital for a business. Barrett Firearm Manufacturing was born, and an initial production of 30 rifles began. Sales were slow to begin with. Turns out the civilian market for a 50 caliber rifle priced at $3,000 in the 1980s is small. There wasn't much in the way of competition, however, and the combination of a powerful cartridge, recoil mitigation, and a man-portable package opened up interest to a rather specialized market. The CIA procured an undisclosed number of Barrett's rifles for use by the Mujahideen in the Soviet-Afghan War. Quite what they did with them isn't well documented, but it's likely they caused some trouble for the Soviets. A small number of Barrett Light 50s also found their way into the Provisional IRA's hands in the mid-80s, notable for use in the South Armagh sniper campaign during the Troubles. In 1989, the Barrett Light 50 was adopted by the Swedish Army in an anti-materiel role. In 1990, the United States Armed Forces did the same, designating it the Special Applications Scoped Rifle and deploying it during the Gulf War. When paired with the Raufoss Mark II 11 round, which features a tungsten-penetrated core, explosive charge, and incendiary tip, there are few
Tungsten
targets this
penetrator
rifle
core.
can't tackle. The naysayers were wrong. Ronnie Barrett's initial sketch had found its purpose, and Ronnie became one of only 7 individuals to design a firearm adopted by the United States military in the last century. The first variant, known as the Light 50 or M82, was modified slightly in 1986 with the M82A1, which came with flip-up iron sights and a larger muzzle brake. In 1987 there was the M82A2, a bullpup reconfiguration of the rifle.
That is actually kind of first and badass at the same time.
The M82A1M was the version designed for the US military, with a Picatinny rail, rear grip, and monopod socket. This variant was later designated the M107 by the US Armed Forces, and the M82A3 by the US Marine Corps. There were some bolt-action variants too, the first being the M90 in 1990, followed by the improved M95 in 1995. The move to a bolt-action variant was spurred by the US Army's initial desire to select a bolt-action weapon for the M107 role. In fact, the Barrett M95 was initially selected as the XM107 before a decision was made to drop the bolt-action requirement, and the M82 was adopted instead. More recently, as the XM500, introduced in 2006. It's a lighter and more compact derivative of the M82 in a bullpup configuration. While 50 BMG has always been Barrett's signature caliber, there have been other offerings due to different needs and the potential legal restriction of the cartridge in some regions. For instance, there's the Model 98B, introduced in 1997, chambered for .338 Lapua Magnum, and the MRAD, or Multi-Role Adaptive Design, which supports a wide range of cartridges via a field-changeable barrel. Today, Barrett's rifles are used by over 50 nations worldwide, with the original 50 cal design the most prominent. Such is its status that in 2016, the Barrett M82 was named as the official state rifle of Tennessee. The rifle's imposing presence has also helped secure its place on screen, and the Barrett starts turning up in movies from the late 1980s. Perhaps the most notable early appearance is in 1987's RoboCop, where the Barrett is styled into a futuristic-looking experimental weapon called the Cobra Assault Cannon. Impressively large, the weapon sports a high-tech scope and fires explosive rounds with a predictably Hollywood effect. Since then, the Barrett has turned up in films seeking an impressive-looking sniper rifle. It was a relatively rare sight in the 90s, but it became more popular post-2000, with appearances in Shooter, The Hurt Locker, and the 2008 Rambo. This later surge in popularity correlates with a greater interest in military matters, spurred by the contemporary Iraq War, which dominated news. Another key factor in the relevance and recognition of the Barrett in media was an increased depiction in video games. The earliest games that feature the Barrett in any prominent sense are the tactical military shooters of the early 2000s, such as Ghost Recon and Delta Force. These games tend to offer a range of military hardware so that you can tackle missions in different ways, and the Barrett fits logically at the top of the sniper rifle tree. The weapon is always equipped with a scope, as befits its intended long-range role, and the large size of the Barrett is conveyed with a view model that occupies a significant part of screen real estate. The distinctive muzzle brake caps off the barrel's length, and, almost without exception, the virtual 50 caliber round will take out enemies with just a single shot. The early tactical shooters had a hardcore fan base, but over the coming years, more casual FPS genres exploded in popularity, bringing a modern arsenal, Barrett included, to a much wider audience. Battlefield 2 staked this claim in 2005, but it was Call of Duty 4 a couple of years later that really heralded the start of a new FPS era, the modern military shooter. This was the Barrett's time to shine, and COD 4 put it directly in the spotlight during its memorable Pripyat mission. In one shot, one kill, you take up a hidden position with an emplaced Barrett AT-2, and are tasked with making a critical long-range shot on a target during a narrow window of opportunity. The bullet travel time, wind direction, and strength all play a key role in delivering the 50 caliber round on target. But firing reveals your position, hence the mission title, Get Away, buying crucial time as you down an incoming helicopter. It's a memorable sequence and a favourite mission of many. So of course, the Barrett was usable in multiplayer too, where its immense power and satisfying report secured favour with snipers who sought the utmost in stopping power. Call of Duty would be immensely popular in the years that followed, with numerous sequels and no shortage of imitators. Along with them, the Barrett would see frequent return. The Barrett is normally presented as the most powerful conventional weapon in games that feature it. Of the already mighty sniper rifle category, the 50 cal reigns as an undisputed king. Often its anti-materiel role is reflected by an elevated damage profile, hurting armored opponents or vehicles where most non-explosive options...
Oh my god, I love the armor penetrating
its depiction is
like
at its best,
modification on Cold War. You could literally just destroy people's kill streaks. It was so funny. Like a VTOL jet or the anything on Black Ops would be destroyed by a Barrett. It is so funny.
Sound design that resonates with the impact a 50 caliber weapon ought to exhibit. At its best, it exudes power. It's not all good news though. In the name of balance, the potency is tempered with heft. It's a large, heavy weapon to wield, and so this often means your movements are slowed and actions made deliberate. The chunky magazine is seated home with a satisfying pivot, and the first round chambered, and the purposeful pull on the bolt handle. This is a weapon of precision, the game reminds you. And if you want to effectively apply it, a degree of patience is essential. It's all worth it though, for the base gut punch of the shot and the powerful satisfaction of one shot, one kill. As the dust settles, all that remains is the echo. The Barrett is an impressive weapon on all fronts, from its alarming size, the reach and potential of its round, and the technical feat of taming its recoil. It fills a role that many didn't realise existed, but Ronnie Barrett's initial inspiration propelled him to an upper echelon of American arms designers. Today, there are other 50 caliber rifles, but the Barrett will always be the original Light 50. Perhaps it's overkill. Perhaps a conventional rifle would do just fine, but perhaps you want to be ready for an exception. The Barrett 50 cal. Uncompromised, unyielding, unstoppable. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.
Glock. Just so you. Glocks are amazing. There's so many types of Glocks. They're one of the, I think they're one of the first guns to actually have plastic. They're very famous because the little blocky Glocky. I want Glock 19. That's one of my most wanted models.
Rectangles overlapped, like a gun drawn by a child. And yet, for some reason, it's quite popular. The Glock, a polymer-framed pistol hailing from Austria, and perhaps the most successful of the Wonder Nines. So, how did an obscure Austrian plastic manufacturer have such an impact on the arms industry? What was so special about Glock's design?
They were plastic and metal, not wood and metal.
To X-rays.
Because wood is heavy.
During World War II, Austria's service pistol was the Walther P38, a perfectly serviceable semi-auto pistol, and it retained its role for some time after the war. However, by the late 1970s, there were better alternatives, and the Austrian Armed Forces began seeking a replacement pistol in 1980. The most likely contender at this time was the Steyr GB. Designed in 1968 and boasting some novel features, but it faced stiff competition from other European manufacturers.
Steyr.
Beretta,
That's the guy. Those are the guys that make AUGs.
As surely the Austrians would select a homegrown weapon, and Steyr were pretty much the only Austrian arms manufacturer going. It was a shoo-in.
Steyr.
However, there was an outsider. A man named Gaston Glock. He was the founder of a small manufacturing company based in Deutsch Wagram that made polymer products, originally curtain rods and doorknobs. By the late 1970s, Glock had found a niche in products for the military, entrenching tools, knives, and disintegrating links. They'd never made any firearms before, but when Glock caught wind of the upcoming tender for a replacement pistol, he decided to design his own. He was guided by the standards set by the Austrian Ministry of Defense. The new weapon had to be a 9mm semi-auto, high capacity, ambidextrous, drop safe, easy to maintain, and of simple, interchangeable construction. Unhindered by any preconception or existing tooling, this was an entirely new pistol designed to an exacting specification. He called it the Glock 17, as it was his 17th invention. That its magazine capacity was 17 rounds was serendipity. In 1982, Glock submitted his handgun design to the Austrian military for testing, where it would be up against heavyweights such as 6 Hour's P220 and 226, H&K's P7,
Heckler and
Beretta
Koch.
92. The prize was an order of 25,000 units. And somehow, the rank outsider clinched it. Glock's design proved its capability, outperforming all of its rivals. Now,
I need to buy a Glock one. I will buy a Glock one day.
So, news of a hitherto unknown name in firearms beating established manufacturers was surprising, to say the least. There was concern that the high-capacity magazine would prove useful for criminals, and that the plastic frame would be invisible on airport X-ray machines. It was described as tailor-made for terrorists.
As the media would
Most
always
of
do
these
for
fears
guns.
were unfounded. The metal components of the Glock are still quite recognizable as a firearm, and by now, high-capacity weapons were the norm. Eventually, the resistance to the Glock dissipated.
Yeah, succumb to the
After all,
Glock.
you can't get good design down, and more police and military forces realized the Glock's potential, with the weapon seeing rapid adoption throughout the 1990s. The plastic pistol from Austria was ready for the silver screen. Die Hard 2 wasn't the first film the Glock made an appearance in, but it's probably the first memorable one. The fictional Glock 7 is described as a porcelain gun made in Germany that doesn't show up on your airport X-ray machines and costs more than what you make in a month. The quote is wrong on almost every count, but the gun was new, and it was cool. As its popularity surged, the Glock became an increasingly common sight, often seen in the hands of fictional law enforcement, such as in RoboCop 3, The Fugitive, and Beverly Hills Cop 3. fellow Austrian Arnold Schwarzenegger was reportedly a fan. And the Glock makes an appearance in True Lies, Eraser, and End of Days. Even the word Glock itself became a byword for firepower, a frequent reference in gangster rap, such as Ice-T's OG Original Gangster, Dr. Dre's Let Me Ride, and Ice Cube's You Know How We Do It. Right from the start, the pistol has refused stereotype. Civilian, police, military, terrorist, gangbanger. The Glock is for everyone. This universal appeal was helped by a large number of variants, model numbers starting with the 17 and ascending. The Glock 18, a fully automatic machine pistol. The 19 with compact frame.
19.
20 made for the hard-hitting 10mm auto round.
I want the 19 because you can use the magazines for Chris Spectors.
23 and 24 in 40 Smith & Wesson. The 25 in 380 ACP. And the 26, a subcompact Glock in 9mm, ideal for concealed carry. The list goes on. A whole range of calibers, a whole range of sizes. Despite some issues with the earlier 40 cal models, mostly a consequence of hotter than usual rounds, Glock's original design has proven quite adaptable. And today, the pistol for everyone is everywhere. Naturally, this means they're a popular choice for video games, and the Glock is one of
Glock 19. Or 18. I have to hear this bad boy fire. I've heard it fire on Phantom Forces, but I've never heard it fire in real life.
And only the law enforcement departments. But switch into high gear the machine.
Jesus! Oh my god.
Perspective.
That is scary.
33-round magazine in 1.5 seconds. Although there are slight differences.
What's the Glock 18 sounds like? In fact, that little baby pistol could be automatic. It's insane, actually. A little baby pistol could be so fast firing. That's a Chicago gangster weapon right there.
Like a gun drawn. The price was an order of 25,000. Hitting 10mm auto round. 21 in 45 ACP. It's ideal for concealed carry. The list goes on. A whole range of calibers, a whole range of sizes. Despite some issues with the earlier 40 cal models, mostly a consequence of hotter than usual rounds, Glock's original design has proven quite adaptable. And today, the pistol for everyone is everywhere.
It is.
Naturally,
You can't go to a gun show or a gun shop without finding a Glock. They're everywhere. My dad's got one.
However,
Everybody
being
has
pistol
one.
is often sidelined to a secondary role.
If you don't have a Glock, then you have a variant of Glock. Like, my dad doesn't really have a Glock, but he's got a weapon, like a Smith & Wesson, that's made off of Glock. Love Glocks. I shoot Glock like a little wuss, honestly. I can't shoot 9mm. I suck. I am awful at shooting 9mm. I will admit that. I need to get trained on how to shoot 9mm. I probably could shoot it a little bit better now. Maybe.
Assault rifle. It's not a glamorous job, but such is the pistol's lot. But in the early days of the FPS, lower-ranking weapons within the power hierarchy got their share of attention by being the first weapons you got to play with. This coincides with the Glock's rapid rise in popularity during the late 90s. So, early appearances in games like Duke Nukem 3D and Half-Life aren't too surprising. As more realistic games took hold, we start to see a reflection of the Glock's popularity with law enforcement and military units. Games like SWAT 4, the Delta Force and Rainbow Six series all feature the Glock in some form. Of course, it's not always called the Glock in games. It is a commercial trademark, so it's often changed to avoid legal trouble. Most often, the Glock 17 will be known as the G17, or perhaps as one of its military designations. In some cases where firearms are less of a focus, it might be entirely generic, the 9mm pistol or similar. There's no mistaking its boxy exterior though. The Glock's familiarity is its key distinction. The entire Glock lineup is broadly similar. They all look and behave in pretty much the same way. But there is one exception. The forbidden Glock 18. It is disproportionately popular in games, probably because it's more interesting and exciting than the semi-automatic pistols it resembles. In gameplay terms, it fills an interesting role that not many other recognizable weapons can. A pocket-sized auto, seldom controllable, but always quite good fun. The Akimbo Glocks from Modern Warfare 2.
Yes, I love the Akimbo Glocks.
They were surprisingly
I play Modern Warfare
effective
2 and I have
without
the
ability to
automatic Glocks, but dual wield these.
So as dull as pistols can be, there's something to like about the Glock. A utilitarian charm. It's just a gun. It's just a gun that does its job extraordinarily well.
Yep.
It's lost its exotic edge. No longer is it the plastic European wonder that changed America's outlook on handguns. But it's matured into a modern classic that might just outlast us all. So, welcome to the default option.
I wouldn't be surprised if 100 years in the future, Glock still remains as a thing, because the 1911 was designed in 1911, but it's still used to this day. I mean, hell, I have a model of a German version of the 1911, and it's so fun to shoot. Beretta 92.
So, my wife got me this weird new tool.
Oh my god, okay, I love that tool. It's just like a little black and orange thing where you press it on the corners and it makes the outline, and you draw that onto your wood and you cut like plywood out of it. It's actually a really cool tool. It's called superbrandtools.com. That's the website that sells it. That's actually a pretty cool tool. I love it. Beretta 92.
Pistols do not win wars, but they save the lives of men who do. A handgun cannot match the accuracy or range of a rifle, but can prove a valuable substitute in the absence of one. The Beretta 92, also known as the M9, is a definitive 9mm pistol,
M9.
both in service and on the silver screen.
One of the most iconic
Founded in
Italian firearms.
replacing an American classic. Why is it a staple weapon in action films? And which is better, 9mm or 45 ACP? Founded in 1526, Italian Co. Beretta is the oldest active firearms manufacturer in the world.
Damn.
Gunsmith Maestro Bartolomeo Beretta made his name producing arquebus barrels for the Arsenal of Venice, and the company still exists today in a similar line of business. They were tasked with supplying the Italian army with weapons during both
Beretta
World Wars.
M1918.
Perhaps their best known product today is a semi-automatic pistol design, first devised in 1975.
Top load magazine. It's so
Beretta
cursed.
92 was a development of earlier Beretta pistols, such as the M1922 and M1951, with the latter lending much to the 92's exterior styling, and the German Walther P38 providing the locking system for the barrel. In the middle of the 20th century, most American police forces were reliant on classic revolvers, chambered in .38 Special or the more powerful .357 Magnum.
357.
While familiar and
Oh my god, the difference between a 357 and a 38. Here's what I don't get. On Fallout 4, 38 is weak as hell, but in real life, it could probably, like, it'd cripple your legs in one hit. Meanwhile, 357 hits like a truck. I mean, my dad, what he did, he threw 5 rounds of 38 in a revolver, and he threw 1 round of 357. I'm getting through the round, I'm going boom, 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 boom. When I get 6, it goes BAM! Like, it doesn't like go this high, but like, I felt the power of that. 357 is a powerful bullet for its size.
It was capacity, with most revolvers carrying just 6 rounds, with a relatively slow reload to boot. In the wake of arms development during World War II, many European forces were switching to 9mm semi-automatic weapons, with their double-stack magazines giving them a large capacity advantage over older designs. Earlier pistols such as the Browning High Power and Walther P38 proved their worth, and would pave the way for a new wave of modern, high-capacity semi-automatic pistols, such as the CZ75, Sig Sauer P226, Glock 17, and of course, the Beretta 92. These new service weapons were dubbed Wonder Nines, with a hint of sarcasm from those who preferred the more proven revolvers. But eventually the advantages of these new pistols started to erode any resistance. The original Beretta 92 design, intended for the Italian army and police, saw relatively limited production. It was later variants that would prove more popular. The 92S added a slide-mounted safety in accordance with some law enforcement's requirements, and the 92F and the later 92FS added further improvements, which would eventually lead to its adoption by the US Army. The US Armed Forces had long been aware of the advantages of a semi-automatic sidearm. After all, the venerable M1911 pistol had been in service since 1911. Although the classic Browning design was much loved, by 1980 the design was starting to show its age, and the US sought a replacement. One of the driving forces behind the change was the NATO Standardization Agreement. In order to simplify supply logistics, NATO forces would use these same calibers. And since 1962,
Yes.
9x19mm Luger rounds have been elected as the pistol caliber of choice. A controversial point even today, the 9mm versus 45 caliber
9mm.
is a particularly divisive one.
I mean, I'd probably be okay with either round, but I'd rather have 9mm. It's a little smsmaller and easy to carry. 45 can be a little slightly heavier and have more recoil. And apparently the bullets are actually pretty slow. That's how my dad says, big, fat, and slow. I'd rather have 9mm because I bet you I could probably fire a lot more 9mm than 45. Just saying.
5 ACP offers greater punch.
Great power.
9mm rounds are smaller,
Speed.
offering greater capacity, and have both lower recoil and higher velocity.
Yeah.
While some lament the loss in stopping power, modern 9mm loads prove more than adequate for most needs. And in 1985,
And
the Beretta 92F
Cool.
edged out the more expensive Sig P226 to be adopted as the US Army's service pistol under the M9 designation. Reliable with its all-steel construction, able to weather battle conditions, and with generous magazine capacity, the Beretta is a thoroughbred workhorse. Its selection by the US Army has led to its inevitable inclusion in a whole host of modern military games. Often a default sidearm, it is a ubiquitous ally to the American M4. It's the go-to choice for those looking to play soldier, although in reality pistols are only issued to select roles. Rear echelon troops, drivers, officers, etc. In games, pistols fill a curious niche. They are often intentionally weaker than most other weapons, with limited range and semi-automatic fire. In Counter-Strike, pistols are the cheapest option, and such weapons determine the outcome of the first round. But once the money rolls in, they're quickly ditched for automatic weapons. The one place they do excel is in reactivity. Fast switching and quick on target. True to reality, the true strength of a pistol is as a backup to your primary weapon. They are ignored by most in favour of their rifle, or even replaced with an enemy weapon. But for those with the reflexes to use it, a trusty sidearm is valuable. In almost every Call of Duty, the tutorial slips in the old adage. Switching to your pistol is always faster than reloading. The Beretta is a large weapon as far as handguns go, and as a result, it has quite a formidable on-screen presence. Much of the weapon's popularity can be attributed to Hong Kong film director John Woo. He was a fan of the pistol's stout size and near bottomless magazine, and gave it prime placement in many films, often wielded as a pair. It's the protagonist's weapon of choice in A Better Tomorrow, and the same goes for Inspector Tequila in Hard Boiled. These seminal action flicks have had considerable influence, and this heroic bloodshed has seeped into games inspired by cinema. It's certainly no coincidence that the Berettas come in pairs in Counter-Strike, but it's the Max Payne series that is perhaps the most explicit of examples, with Max imitating classic Wu gunfighting action with dual Berettas in all 3 installments. Of course, the most direct link is in John Woo's own game, Stranglehold, where Tequila reprises his role from Hard Boiled with a pair of the iconic pistols. A far cry from its military service, it seems the Beretta has a darker side. 2 guns, infinite ammo, and paired with a thirst for vengeance. So the Beretta is a weapon with a distinct yet subdued charm. It makes a bold statement, but is never brash. Its legacy might never live up to the M1911, but while it's cut for a different caliber, it shares many of the values of the classic bearing design. Just a regular handgun, no showing off, just showing up and getting the job done. The Beretta 92. Classic 1 to 9. Reliable, and always on your side. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.
This one deserves every single piece of respect. AK-47.
What could be more iconic than the Kalashnikov?
It is the gun of the world.
Its simple construction.
Civilian, terrorist, military, police, everybody uses AKs. Well, it's mostly everybody uses AK, like US, the police force and military doesn't use them.
What makes the AK so special?
It's cheap, reliable,
Why is the near 70-year-old rifle still so popular?
powerful.
And is there really no substitute? The legendary rifle's story starts in Soviet Russia, in the embers of World War II. This was an era of rapid technological progress amidst valiant acts, and the Soviet Union loved a hero. Mikhail Kalashnikov was a tanker in the Red Army, wounded in action in 1941.
Yeah, had to stay home and
During his
started.
recuperation, he learned of his comrades' woes with their issued rifles, and resolved to tackle them with a soldier-focused approach to small arms design, with innate usability born from simplicity, reliable function. His early designs caught the eye of officials, and Kalashnikov found himself part of a small arms development group for the Red Army. The Soviets were not shy to take influence from what other forces were fielding, and between
Germany's
counter-Nazi
guns.
weapons, Allied supplies,
There's a German gun that looked like the AK, which they took the inspiration
the
from.
AK-47 began to take shape. The German Sturmgewehr 44 was a major influence. With similar form factor, improved the viability of a mid-power cartridge, and provided the gas system for Kalashnikov's design.
And it's
The earlier
TG.
RPD would also lend its intermediate cartridge to the AK-47, the 7.62 by 39mm round, also known as the M43. Its slightly tapered casing is responsible for giving the AK-47 its distinctive curved magazine. In demonstrations, the 1947 prototype outperformed any rival, and was readily adopted by the Russians, although initial manufacturing issues did slow down deployment. These issues were remedied by 1959, when a modernised version was introduced.
The
known as
AKM.
The AKM. It
I'm not
replaced the belt
AKMs.
receiver with a stamped metal one, both lighter and easier to produce.
Which makes the
It was
AK
also
such a
equipped with
viable
to
platform.
improve the accuracy of automatic fire.
They could pump these bad boys out really
There are a
fast.
number of variants of this basic design.
Oh,
From
and
the
fun fact about the AK, 1 out of 10 to 1 out of 5 fire, which is astounding. There's like at least 50 million AKs in the world.
number of foreign-produced AK
Oh,
pattern
for example, an FN Scar. Like, you know, a Scar from Fortnite? A semi-auto Scar would run you about $7,000 at my gun store. Meanwhile, the AK on the shelf that shot the same cartridge, and it was also the same action, was $756, which $700 for a 7.62 rifle is hella cheap. I could buy that rifle. I can't afford these high-powered guns. I could afford an AK, which is insane. Apparently they've gone as low as $13 within the Middle East. They're like dirt cheap too.
Such as the Chinese Type 56, Hungarian AMD,
Disgusting Type 88 by the
AK-62,
North Koreans.
the smaller caliber AK-7.
I can't take Type 88. It's ugly.
1974, firing the lighter but higher velocity 5.45 by 39mm.
I like 5.45.
With greater wounding potential versus the older round, the AK-74 would supplement and eventually replace the AKM in service. Pair these variants with such a broad service history, and you have a recipe for a very popular weapon indeed.
So
There have been more Kalashnikov pattern rifles made
then there are
than
AK-47s.
rifles combined.
Yeah, I knew
In
that.
fact, of all the small arms that exist, 1 in 5 is an AK. It's utterly ubiquitous, found in every corner of the globe, and such is its influence, it even adorns the flag of Mozambique. No surprise then that the AK-47 is as popular in video games as it is in real life, with perhaps as many digital renditions as those stamped from steel. It's so well known that most instances, regardless of variant, are labelled as the AK-47 without fear of license rights. Only the most cautious opt to use ersatz appellations, such as GoldenEye's KF-7 Soviet, or the CV-47 in earlier Counter-Strike games. These virtual depictions reflect the rifle's design in a variety of ways, but there's no mistaking the familiar characteristics of the AK.
Yep.
Often, a weapon's identity is forged by the powers that wield it, and with its prominent use by the Second World during the Cold War. The AK has come to symbolize the defiance and might of those who would oppose the West. It's the foil to the American M16, and the weapon of choice for any opposing force. And for that reason, it's often the default option for the bad guys in games that mirror any recent conflict. In some cases, like in Counter-Strike, the AK is only available to the terrorist forces. And here it has prime placement, being the top-tier automatic weapon on offer, alongside the counter-terrorist M4. Perhaps it's by its association with untrained militia fighters, or just affinity by design. But long bursts of automatic fire, spray and pray, seems like a natural fit for the AK. It has perfectly good accuracy, and is more than capable of hitting targets within its effective range. But somehow, the AK doesn't feel like a marksman's rifle. Luckily, the weapon is quite suited to sustain fire, and this is normally reflected within its depiction. The AK's rate of fire is fairly moderate, and while recoil is present, it's still possible to rest the weapon onto a close-range target.
Yeah.
It's not particularly elegant, not great for ammo conservation, but you've got 30 chances to hit something, even if it's not what you were aiming at.
Exactly. Oh, they know
Of
about.
course, it's not just enough to be capable of automatic fire.
Ah.
A weapon must also be able to dole out magazine after magazine without stoppage or fuss. Luckily, the AK's reliability is legendary. With loose tolerances and as simple a mechanism as possible, there's not too much.
Just like the AR, just like AR weaponry, the AK can take so much. It can actually be disassembled. Again, as I said before on a stream, the way you take apart an AR platform, there's 2 pins. Turn the gun and make sure it's pointing on the right. At least if it's an MP1522. Then you take a screwdriver, poke those 2 little pins, pull the pins out from the other side, and they shouldn't come out, but they should be like loosened. There you go. It's taken apart. Very easy and peasy.
Can go wrong, and even less that can't be got right. This is one trait that doesn't transfer well to video games. Malfunctions are seldom shown, as firearm maintenance isn't a particularly exciting endeavor.
Exactly. A lot of things that games get wrong is you can't just fire a gun over and over and over. No, you have to clean it. You have to take your guns apart, like every few thousand rounds, and you have to actually clean them. If you don't, they're going to lose their effectivity, and they're going to become worse. Hello. I was very close to buying an AK, but at the time I had like $700, and this is the time when money was a little bit more scarce for me, and I said no, I can't. I have to save up my money for other things, so I kind of dropped the AK. I wanted the AK because the AK's got really good hitting power, kill power, because it can help me defend my property against things like rabid animals that have rabies and stuff. Because 7.62, I don't know why I wanted an AK. Because I can't shoot 9. Oh no. I have shot an AK before. Forgot. There's a video on my channel where I actually shoot an AK-47, but it's semi-auto because it's Illinois and... Oh, hello. Sorry. Ah, crap, I just pulled out my charger cord. My weapons I really want to buy are the Glock 19, Chris Vector 9mm CRB semi-auto, and the Tavor TS12. So the Glock 19 is a pistol. The Tavor I want it because it's recoilless 9mm, and it can allow me to put out greater firepower as opposed to my MP15 22 caliber. And then the TS12 is a shotgun, which has these 3 tubes on it, right? When you go boom, 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 boom. And then when you run out of your tube, you go switch, boom, 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 switch, boom, 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 boom. It holds 15 shells, and it's a breech load. You know, like shotgun, like those pump shotguns have the underbarrel loads. They can only hold like what, 5 rounds? This thing can hold 15. That sounds peaceful. Well, judging that you have a Canadian flag in your channel, yeah, that had to be cold. How does it not freeze? I mean, I'm in Illinois and it's already starting to freeze. We're getting our first infographics why AK is deadlier than a nuke. Yeah, I agree with you. To a point, the AKs have definitely taken more lives than nuclear weapons. It's because the AK is really common, and nukes were not really used that much.
Experiencing a feed failure mid-firefight would only prove frustrating. Some games do reflect these factors, however, perhaps most notably Far Cry 2, with scavenged weapons proving much less reliable than those bought brand new. Weapon condition is also a factor in some RPGs, such as in Fallout 3. But a poorly kept weapon suffers only in the damage stakes, rather than with any interruption. It's its reliability and simplicity that gives the weapon much of its charm. Other weapons might be more high-tech, but that does you no good if it chokes in dusty environments. It seems almost sacrilegious to tamper with the purity of the AK, strapping anything superfluous to the weapon.
Yeah, there are some people who think that the AK should not be modded, so they just run it.
Do let you customize your AK-47 with a variety of attachments. Optics, suppressors, and garish paint jobs. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare had the right idea, as equipping a red dot sight would harm the AK-47's long-range damage, meaning the most sensible choice was just a plain rifle with iron sights. Remember, just because you can, doesn't mean you should. Of course, if you're some tin pot dictator of some far-flung land, you can generally do whatever you like. And this extends to having your favourite rifle gold-plated. Although such weapons are ornamental and clearly not designed for the rigours of battle, some games do feature golden guns. Some represent the pinnacle of accomplishment with the weapon, a reward for the completion of challenges, while others just represent an absence of good taste. So, the AK-47, the very best there is. From drug lords to peasant rebellions, the AK is everyone's favorite weapon.
YouTube, stop repeating my comments. I don't care. It's like, I've already read them. They don't have any value to me after I've read them. No offense. This one's about the M60. M60, belt-fed, 5.56 machine gun used by SEAL and the U.S. military. Also known as the light machine gun from Fortnite Season like 4, or, well, it's the M60 in the Call of Duty. I love the M60. Long reload, but long fire rate.
In the chaos of combat, you might not know where the enemy is. But with enough firepower, you can always make them get their heads down. The M60, a classic post-war American machine gun, known for its service in Vietnam, and its role in action cinema. So, what prompted the development of a new machine gun?
Or also known as the zombie killer.
What problems did this design face? What makes it perfect for on-screen action?
Here's the thing about 5.56 is that 7.62 will kill your target. Okay. 5.56 will wound your target, will force medics to go onto the field, force people to go on the field to save the target, and if they save the target, then they have to spend more resources healing your target. So basically, if you really put it down to perspective, so I heard this from a video once. If you actually put it down to perspective, 5.56 can do more damage to an army than 7.62 in a way. Because if they're healing that soldier, instead of like you killing him, when they're healing that soldier, they're actually spending more resources. Therefore, more resources spent means that they're not going to have other resources to spend as much on guns and ammo. Pretty cool fact.
The end of World War II was relief for a world weary of conflict. But to call what followed
Hello.
peace wouldn't be entirely accurate. Warfare had entered a nuclear age, and the tactics and equipment used at the start of the war were now woefully inadequate. The greatest lessons from war are taught by the opposition. And the Americans looked to the tactics and captured equipment of the Germans to better understand their own shortcomings. German squads consisted of 10 men. One squad leader, 5 riflemen, 1 SMG user for close-range support, and a 3-man machine gun crew. The bolt-action K98K rifles carried by most of the squad were arguably out of date. But that didn't really matter, as their job was to protect the MG, carry extra ammunition in spare barrels, and flush the enemy into its fire.
Oh, the Germans in World War II had this thing called Hitler's Buzzsaw. This bad boy is called the MG42. It shot so many bullets, they had to take the barrels out and put brand new ones in. That's how hot these barrels got. Because the hotter your barrel can get, the poorer your firepower and accuracy could get. It depends from gun to gun. Also, the MG42, yeah, it's a legendary rifle or a machine gun. It's actually inspired a lot of the machine guns to this day. Germans in World War II, like the military, was awful. Like, they're stupid. They actually betrayed the Soviet Union. If they wouldn't have betrayed the Soviet... I'm not saying I want them to win. They deserve their loss. They're awful military. If they wanted to win, they shouldn't have disobeyed the Soviet Union. When they basically disobeyed the Soviet Union, they basically just kicked a hornet's nest and got stung to death. Like, they had it really good. They could have won, which is scary, but due to their own stupidity, they actually messed with the wrong country, which is the Soviet Union, which basically said, hippity hoppity, I'm gonna squeeze you back on your property. No, no, squish it. They just got squished to death. What's it called? The "you died" scene from Minecraft, but it's like Germany was squished to death. Yeah, they got squished back in their place. And by the way, can we comprehend the fact that Germany lost both World War I and II? Because after the First World War, they got blamed because they basically destroyed their economy, and they used chemical warfare, which basically this stuff would get on your skin and it'd leave welts all over you. It's mustard gas. Here's a bad thing. You wanna know something more horrifying about World War I? The gas sank. It was denser than air, and they used trenches. So basically, this gas would sink into the trenches and it would not escape, harming more people. Which is why mustard gas, especially when trench warfare is present, is pretty nasty. Anyway, yeah, that's my take. Oh, by the way, the Germans back then, they manufactured these uranium cubes. In fact, if Einstein's really, really important because the Germans in the Second World War II were very close to getting nukes developed. If Einstein wouldn't have leaked the ability or the fact that the Germans were actually using nukes or about to make nukes, the world would be different. Can you imagine if they actually succeeded in making a nuke? They would destroy everything. Israel would probably be first, then they'd destroy Britain, and then America, which is scary. Imagine what they would do with nuclear weapons. They would kill so many people. But before, yeah, same here, but before the war was ended, and as they were losing the war, they stashed, destroyed, or hid these uranium cubes. One of them has actually been recovered, and it's in the Los Alamos laboratory in New Mexico, or New Mexico, California, or Arizona, one of the 3 states. But yeah, these uranium cubes are actually pretty rare. Yeah, Germany really got screwed for a good 50 years in the first century. They've only, like, what's it called? I mean, after the fall of, you know, like, west of Germany, they literally split in... Oh, you shouldn't. You should not. Anyway, after the fall of Germany in World War II, they literally split into 2 factions. I have a communist coin. I have a West Germany coin. Ivan was almost about to buy a puffing, like a... I don't know that's how you call them, but... It's a World War II era German coin. It's an old coin. Yeah, it's a commie coin. I have a bunch of foreign coins. I have a UAE coin, United Emirates coin. I have a Bermuda penny. I have a Irish penny. I have European pennies, like 2-cent pieces. I even have a little baby 1-cent piece from Ireland, and it's so cute. I gotta get it. Give me a second. Harvest this. Like, it's the smallest coin I've ever seen. Canadian penny? You think I have Canadian penny? They've banned pennies, apparently, back then. Canadian pennies? Well, I got myself a whole jar of them. Ah, yes. You know how many of these actually end up in American circulation? I've searched $1,500 of pennies, and I've found probably at least $3 of Canadian pennies. Yeah, your Canadian pennies actually end up in American circulation a lot. I mean, there are so many of them. Some of them are made of steel, but they're very uncommon. I found, here's a Centennial penny. One of these bird pennies. It's a Canadian, it's a... In 1967. Probably copper. So yeah, Canadian pennies actually can, we have these machines that sort out coins, and pennies actually can be, Canadian pennies actually trip the sensor for US pennies, and they can be shoved in the same rolls. Like banking rolls, I actually open up those bad boys, and I get Canadian pennies every so often. Hell, there's even a glitch where that's a rare chance in American penny rolls to get dimes. Oh, not this. Oh god. I'm gonna have to go within a few minutes. Apparently Canada actually is starting to melt their pennies, which is why I'm extremely reluctant to even let any of the pennies go. I even have Canadian dimes, Canadian nickels, Canadian quarters, which are weird. Apparently they're all, I think they're all made of a magnetic material. Oh yeah, every day the Canadian government is melting pennies. Apparently, like, they're not making any more pennies anymore since of 2012. Since 2012 was the last year of Canadian pennies. That's why I don't give away my Canadian pennies, because if they go back to the Canadian government, they get melted. So that's a big thing. Do not spend your pennies in Canada. They will melt them. Because thing is, the penny, like for example in the United States, a penny takes 2.3 cents to manufacture. Although it takes about 5 cents to manufacture a dollar coin, a dollar penny. Oh my god, I can't talk. It takes about 5 cents to manufacture a dollar bill. If you think about it, it takes 5 cents to manufacture. Oh, let's be generous. Let's be generous. Let's say it takes 10 cents to manufacture a $100 bill. Think about that. You're making 98 cents. So every $100 bill is easily paying for pennies. Or even the quarters. The quarters, when they Mint makes quarters, they actually make money. And that money both gains them money and substitutes the money that's lost when you make pennies. You lose money when you make pennies every year. So then Canada said enough is enough because they're wasting a lot of money in their eyes, so they stopped making pennies. The US, however, is still steamrolling pennies. However, I think if you want more pennies, you can either go online and buy them. With your pennies. I don't know. But you should never ever spend your pennies, like Canadian pennies in Canada. They will eventually find themselves to the government and they will melt them back down. However, airports might be able to offer you some Canadian pennies. I've even had a bank that would offer to order foreign currency, which I thought was really interesting. It's called US Bank. They offered me to order foreign currency, which I found to be interesting. My school had a bunch of foreign currency in a drawer that they didn't know, so I'm like, you know what, I'll buy it. So I gave them like $5, and I bought all their foreign currency. I got Mexican stuff, Germany coins, I've gotten Asian coins, I've gotten so many of them. I have a lot of foreign stuff. I have a hoard of pennies. I have an entire 5-gallon bucket of them. And they're all copper, too. In the United States, if you find any of the pennies before 82, those are copper, and they're like worth 3 cents a piece. Although you can't go to a cashier and sell them for 3 cents a piece. You want to see what an old big penny looks like? Here's what a U.S. penny looks like. Actually, I don't know if you can see it. This one has a custom strike in it. I cannot get an angle, but you probably could see that square. It's actually the outer shape of Utah. This is a new penny. This is an old penny. Look at the size of that. It's a large cent. It's the oldest coin I have, but it's not the oldest coin I've personally collected. Looney Tunes. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry I have to go. I might be back I know it sounds a lot like 4 hours. Might do homework, meanwhile, like 4 or 5 hours. I have to go to school. Bye. I'm sorry. I don't want to go, but I have to. Thanks for watching, though.